I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. Colors all around, but I don't see anything but blue. Get lost in the sound, go back to the start. Let's go out of the dark. Let's go out of the dark. Get into the light now.
Tonight, lost in the afterglow. Oh, girl, you Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to the Int Stack Venom Gyre, and I hope you like the highlights. The build is incredibly powerful, and I was kind of surprised at how good it was because I've actually never tried out the Int Stacking archetype with any build outside of Wanders. And I did play Int Stacking Spectral Throw way back in Breach League, but it's been a while since I've tried out anything else, and Venom Gyre I thought was a great candidate. Last league in Arch Nemesis, there were actually a few people who played, let's go look at it, Venom Gyre, and I was kind of inspired by it because I have all this gear, right, for my build, and it was pretty expensive and hard to get, and I just wanted to try it out just to see how it looked, because I actually always saw the profile, and I was like, this looks like it has some potential. And as you can see here, it's 13 mil DPS. Obviously, this is a lot lower than what my current setup is, but you can see here, this guy actually has some pretty relatively, not the craziest gear in the world, but definitely pretty good. So I wanted to kind of try it out, see how it actually felt like. And it does have a lot of energy shield, and the results speak for itself. It was incredibly good doing all of the Ubers. It felt very strong. Its damage was incredible in simulacrums. It was also able to get 7 rewards, and I do think that 7 rewards pretty much guarantees that the build has incredible clear. You're not able to get 7 rewards if your build cannot do full screen clear while also having really good boss DPS. So you might be wondering why Venom Gyre. And like I said before, people played it last league with Hand of Wisdom in action. And Hand of Wisdom in action is a claw that gives you percent int and gives you 1 to 10 lightning damage to attacks with this weapon per 10 int. And it also gives you some attack speed per 25 dexterity and 25 to 30% elemental damage with attack skill. So this is a pretty old weapon. You can see here, this is actually the weapon I'm currently using. And you can see this weapon has, on the implicit synthesized, 1 to 6 lightning damage to attacks with this weapon per 10 int. So it's a little bit worse than the Hand of Wisdom in action, but it's made up by the fact that it has 2.08 attack speed. If you look at this weapon over here, it is only 1.6. And as usual, all of the attribute stacking builds got a huge boost because of the new Sentinel boot mod, which gives you an insane amount of flat damage. If we take a look at the PoE, once again, we can see here, if you look at Venom Gyre and the amount of damage you get from the boots, that's 795 flat damage and a 198 or 159 on the low end. Now, this is pretty much all because this character actually has around 1600 int. It is not exactly the smartest character in the world, but it gets its job done. So like I said, I already had all of this Int Stacking gear from the Wander, and I pretty much just don't really like the Wander archetype that much, purely because you have to use 2 different skills, and using 2 different skills is also a huge gem socket liability, having to dedicate a 4 link to Kinetic Blast, so that's also kind of really annoying. And then you have to have a 6 link for your Power Siphon skill. And Venom Gyre does allow you to be really, really tanky, and this build in the end will be tankier than the Wander. Now, the reason being is that elusive effect at maximum is huge. If you look at the EHP, it's pretty much a huge EHP gain. And also, if you look at here, we have Whirling Blades with Fortify. Now, the nice part about any attribute stacking build is that Whirling Blades actually does a lot of damage. So you can see here, it is doing around average damage wise, its average hit is 552,000. And because its hit is so high, we are able to actually proc Fortify, because Fortify depends on how big your hit is, and we can pretty much keep up 20 stacks of Fortify if you're watching the video throughout the whole fight. So with max effect elusive and Fortify, Venom Gyre is actually going to be a lot tankier than the Wander if you do decide to build it as a full tank. Now, you can also decide to play this with Spectral Throw. Spectral Throw and Venom Gyre are pretty much identical skills. If you look at the thing, it's pretty much the difference between Venom Gyre and Spectral Throw is Spectral Throw can hit up to 3 times every single projectile you throw out. And Venom Gyre, instead of hitting 3 times, you can shotgun the boss by using Whirling Blades. Like, they're both incredibly good, but Venom Gyre has built-in chain if you use Divergent Venom Gyre, which is 20 quality, gives you +1 chain, and the +1 chain kind of brings it over the top, and I do think that the shotgunning potential's damage is much higher than Spectral Throw. So if you guys wanted to play this build, I can go over the build real fast, just so you have a pretty good idea of the rationale behind this tree. Now, this tree, I did change it up quite a bit, and it is a lot of travel points. So you can see here, The whole name of the game is Abuse Large Clusters. And we do have a lot of large clusters. We have this large cluster over here. And all of these clusters are energy shield in all attributes and spell damage. You could also use attack damage ones and maybe attack speed ones. I didn't really experiment too much with the build because I had all of the gear already. Only thing I added was I had an extra large cluster and I used a fan of blades and feed the fury. The reasoning behind this is because I wanted more projectiles and I didn't exactly have enough points to fit in 4 large clusters and also have enough points for Megalomaniacs. So you can see here, I actually have a Megalomaniac with Fan of Blades, Fuel to Fight, and then here's a Fan of Blades and Feed to Fury. So that allows us to have 3 total projectiles. Now, you can also choose for a Scion Ascendancy to go Deadeye. The reason I didn't choose Deadeye is not that big of a damage increase. If you look at Inquisitor, it's at 9.7%, and then Deadeye is only, 6.4%, which is not too bad. But it gets kind of wasted because we have Tailwind Boots. If you don't actually have Tailwind Boots, you can pretty much get the identical effect as these boots with just 55 int and Sentinel mod. So it's actually incredibly easy to get these boots because you don't need to worry about Tailwind because you can actually get Tailwind on Deadeye. So if you don't have the boots I currently have, you can decide to go Deadeye instead of Inquisitor. Inquisitor is kind of nice. It gives you Pen, which you sorely need on a build. And it also gives you Consecrated Ground. Now, Consecrated Ground is big because it does allow you to regen a lot of your ES. If you look at our Energy Shield regen, we need to be on Consecrated Ground. So you have to put, are you on Consecrated Ground? And if we're on Consecrated Ground, you can see our regen goes up to 860. While without Inquisitor, it goes down a lot because you will not have Consecrated Ground. And it's also a pretty decent chunk of damage. You have the penetration, and you also have the nearby enemies take 10% increased elemental damage, and you also have the travel path for 20 int. So it's a very, very nice ascendancy to have, and the enemies will pretty much always be nearby because you're using Venom Gyre, and you'll be whirling blades on top of them. So overall, we do try to take as many efficient nodes as possible that we path by, and this tree is actually perfect because you path by the Claw Masteries for the Nightblade elusive effect, you path by the Dagger Mastery for the 40% elusive effect and the 40% critical strike multiplier for skills supported by Nightblade. You get this Thread of Hope here that you're able to take Forces of Nature and Primeval Force, and you also can take Split Shot, which actually gives you an extra projectile when forking. And then lastly, we have the Mark Mastery here, which actually gives us culling, and then Frenzy Charge generation since we don't run Blood Rage. So this is actually incredibly efficient overall. So overall, the tree, I really like it. And we are Power Charge stacking still. So you can see we still have this Power Charge cluster over here and this Attribute cluster over here. And then we also take spell damage per 60 int on the Caster Mastery. And this gives us some ailment immunity and 30% spell damage. Now, the reason behind this is because we use Crown of Eyes for the build. And Crown of Eyes converts all of the spell damage to attack damage at 150% of value. And we are running a Venom Gyre, has a 25% chance to keep caught projectiles fired by using Whirling Blades. And this is actually a huge, huge increase in single target and your clear DPS. You can see how OP Crown of Eyes is with our skill. You take off Crown of Eyes, our damage is now 29 million. So really, really important to use Crown of Eyes. Everything else is pretty much identical to the Int Stacker build. And now you must be wondering, how do we actually get any recovery in the build? You can use a Discipline on hit Watcher's Eye, or you can take Ghost Reaver. We do take Ghost Reaver. It gives you a lot of Energy Shield Leech. So your Energy Shield Leech and Energy Shield Regen combined together will probably get you around like 3k, 3.5k ES regen per second, which should be enough for almost every boss fight. Now, you might be wondering, can this be done on worse gear on a lower budget? And you can absolutely do it. I did include a little bit of a budget gear set. Now, the budget gear set's it's not really that budget. It's just a lot cheaper than what you were used to. But basically, the Vol Regalia is still incredibly expensive, but you can go with a worse one. And same with the gloves. This is pretty much made with essence spamming. And the boots, if you were on a budget, I would definitely grab the Deadeye instead of Inquisitor. And then you would only need a boots with the Int mod and the Sentinel mod with lightning damage per 10 int. And you don't need Elusive or Tailwind. So this one should not be too hard to get. We are using an Astramentus because it's incredibly efficient. Crown of Eyes is still the same. Aziri's Reflection should be like a 100 chaos item. Hand of Wisdom and Action I think is probably free. And then for the rings, I'm using one LE weakness ring with T1 int, and then here is a synthesized percent int ring that's crafted with Essence of Spite. Until you hit T1 wed, Cyclopean Coil is used because it's just incredibly efficient and strong. And for the flask, you just pretty much use whatever you want. And for the clusters, I do know that a lot of people know that the clusters will be really expensive, especially ones with the int on them or the spell damage. So you can pretty much swap these out for Feed the Fury, Field of Fight, and Martial Prowess, and the damage should be approximately the same. You will be a bit squishier because of a lack of energy shield. Now make sure to take Point Blank if you don't actually have the Point Blank chest, because you use some other chest that doesn't have Point Blank on it. So you can see here the damage is still pretty respectable. And you would have to swap out Venom Gyre, Power Charge on crit, probably for increased crit strikes, because you don't have as many power charges without my Mirror Tier rings from the regular butt gear set. So the damage should still be there, and I do think that this build is amazing in the sense that you do have a lot of scaling potential, and it's a lot of upgrades. It's just like playing regular Int Stacker, except I do think that this at a base level will feel a lot better to play than a regular Wander, because Venom Gyre is just a really strong skill mechanically. It also will feel tankier than a Wander because you have Fortify and you have Elusive Effect, which is highly underrated in how important it is to survive. If you ever play the 12-link Claw versus the 12-link Sword, you will notice that the 12-link Sword build really sucks a major D because it feels so squishy to play without Elusive Effect. Personally, this version of Venom Gyre is my favorite compared to Trinity and Strength Stacker, and I think it's just because I like the really high energy shield numbers, even if it means that my build isn't as tanky. And it is very surprising how easy the Uber fights were, because I did think that Venom Gyre would have a lot of trouble at Uber Eater of Worlds or Uber Syrian Exarch due to how bad mechanically it is to Whirling Blades on top of the bosses, but it turns out that it is all fine. So let me know down in the comments below if you want to see a more budget PoB and budget demonstration of this build. I'll try to go out and buy some of the more affordable pieces, but let me know down below if you've ever tried Venom Gyre Int Stacker and what you think about this build. I hope you find more Mirrors, Exalts, and Mage Bless than me, and see you next time. Bye!